A very good morning to you from Amsterdam for the 44th edition of this famous big city marathon. We're coming to you live this morning from the city's famous Olympic Stadium that hosted the 1928 Olympic Games. Well, conditions here this morning are near perfect for the marathon. Dry and with very little wind. Temperatures around 9 degrees now and forecast to rise to around 12 degrees by lunchtime. Very little wind. A very slight wind from the southeast. Negea could make today a very big day for Dutch marathon running.
Yeah, Tadeu Abata from Ethiopia, just 22 years old, one of the younger elite athletes here. 17,000 coiled springs, rating to go. Nervous anticipation. And away we go, the 44th Amsterdam Marathon in 2019 is officially underway. 42.195 kilometres, 26.2 miles if you prefer the distance in old money, lie ahead. And we've already seen the course, and it's a terrific course. And we've got a great field here. And we'll, of course, bring you the elite athletes' progress. We'll give you as many split times as we can. And Richard, course records potentially up for grabs, and interesting in that interview there with Abdi Negea there, a potential European record, Mo Farah 2:05.11.
Yes, I mean it would be amazing if Abdi could get close to Mo's European record, and I think the great thing about Negea's career since he moved up to the marathon is that as the years have gone by, he's just chipped away at his best time. He ran his first marathon in Eindhoven, ran 2:11, and here in Amsterdam we saw him 3 years ago, ran 2:10, and now he's lowered that. He ran 2:08 in Amsterdam, and then in Rotterdam earlier this year ran a 2:06. So every year almost we've seen him reduce his best time, and the big question today is whether he can go even faster than 6 months ago, when he set a new Dutch marathon record of 2:06.17.
That's the scene, the Olympic Stadium, 1928, remember. That was the first time a marathon was run in this famous city. It was won by Bouhera Al Ouafi from Algeria in 2:32.57, for those of you who like your history.
And obviously a nice thing for us commentating here in the stadium is that we're seeing the thousands of participants cross the start line and head out on their journey. 42 kilometres of tarmac ahead of them. And there is Negea. Will be a little bit unusual for him here in Amsterdam to be with the lead group. We've seen him run very well here, but he's never put himself right at the front of the race. Well, today the pace for that lead group has been asked 62:30, and Negea is certainly willing to go with it. In fact, 6 months ago in Rotterdam, when he ran his best time, he went through halfway in 62:17, so he knows all about this pace.
So there we are, just coming into Final Park for the first time, and they're going to hang a right into this famous park, one of the main green spaces in the centre of Amsterdam.
I think it's been a very special period over the last month for world marathon running, and I'm sure today we're going to see another great race.
Just got another glimpse of Tadeu Abata there. We saw him at the start line, one of the younger participants here today. Quite a character, he's always positive.
So the women's race, F3 is Mimi Bellata, the fastest female in the field with 2:22.29. Running alongside her, the second placed athlete from last year, Shashu Insermu. If you remember, Chris, she went out very fast here last year in search of the course record, Meseret Hailu's course record from 2012. That's the Ethiopian. Shashu Insermu has a best time of 2:23.28. I think last year she went through halfway in under 70 minutes.
it'd be interesting to see what she's learned from that experience. I think you and I both felt that she was almost too gung-ho, wasn't she? Too aggressive, and then ended up paying for it. I think at one stage she was even ahead of the pacemakers from them. There is the Rijksmuseum. Absolutely splendid. Underwent a major refurbishment. They're going to turn right and go through the arches and into the museum plain. And not surprisingly, the marathon there showing off, showcasing, if you like, Amsterdam in all its glory, and it doesn't get much better than that.
City athletics has become a very popular sport, and I think it's a great way of bringing athletics much closer to the public. And Amsterdam has those squares and places in the city which make that possible. The athletes in that leading group, Dixisa we've talked about, Bernard Koech, another fast Kenyan, PB of 2:04.53, group of about 14 athletes. And you can see Abdi Nagaya still in that group, but right at the back, probably quite sensibly not wanting to push any harder than he has to. They have set out probably a little bit faster than scheduled, going through 5K in 14:30.
Yeah, 14:30 on the nose. And that is lively. That will put them, that will put them inside on this pace, 2:03 pace. That's quick.
Well, Nagaya still there, still in that leading group, just trying to hang on.
Well, I like to picture the women approaching 5 kilometres. So let's try and bring you a 5K split for the women, if we can see them come through here. Getting through there in what, about 16:28, 16:27, 16:28. Is that a gap between Abdi and the rest of that group that concerns you, Richard?
Well, I'm not concerned. I think Abdi is still in contact with the group. If things go really well for him today, he might get close to Mo Farah's European record set just a year ago in Chicago. Mo wasn't able to replicate that type of performance last Sunday.
No, disappointing run from Mo Farah, but Abdi looking and sounding really confident, wasn't he? And benefiting from having trained with Elliot in Captabat. He's known as the nomad, isn't he, really, Abdi?
Yes, Valentine, his manager, was saying how Abdi used to travel to Ethiopia for training, Kenya for training, sometimes be in Holland, but now he seems as though he's found his best base. No wonder, really, being with Kipchoge and Kamwora in Kapsabet under the coaching of Patrick Sang. Well, Linnet Masai, very interesting to see how she's going to run here today. She finished 5th last year in her debut marathon. Today is her 3rd marathon. She ran in London earlier this year.
And of course, the runners on the right-hand side, left of picture there, have the joy of seeing the elite men. And the joys of big city marathon running, of course, is you share exactly the same course as the best in the business. There aren't many sports you can say that.
3 Ethiopian athletes. I'm calling Mimi Belata Ethiopian-born, now running for Bahrain. Mimi Belata running alongside Degetu Alimiru and Shashu Insemu. So back to the men's race. Still a large group, as we expected, of about 15 athletes. Kenyan, Ethiopian, and the Somalian-born Dutch athlete, Abdi Nagaya.
Unofficially 29:27 through 10 kilometres, so they have slowed slightly, in fact quite appreciably, from that first 5 kilometre split, so maybe that was a little bit too keen from Edwin Kiptu and his fellow pacemakers, so they've just reined it in a little bit. But 29:27 compares to 29:08 last year. Lawrence Chirono on his way to that course record.
So 29:27 through 10K, and that is ahead of the pace that Chirono set last year, or that when he ran his course record 2:04.06, they went through 7 seconds slower. And we can see the leading pacemaker Edwin Kiptoo just running on the shoulder of Frederick Kiptoo and Noah Kipkemboy and trying to orchestrate things in a sensible way.
As we go back to the women's race, there is Lynette Messai still in the mix there in that leading group, but just a little bit off the pace of those three. We've been calling them the three Ethiopians, as Richard said, quite rightly said. Mimi Bellata is now representing Bahrain, but she's Ethiopian born. And here we are with the women coming through at 10 kilometres in what, 32, 48, 49.
5 female athletes who've run under 2:24, but in this leading group there's probably about 8 or 9 female athletes. So I think a few of these athletes are operating at a pace much faster than they've run before.
But we still have a really healthy crop with Abdi Nagea still at the back there, just still keeping out of trouble. And I think you're right, Richard, he's certainly very much part of that group. This is a very deliberate ploy of his, isn't it? To be part of the group, but just to stick at the back and not get too excited.
So 19 athletes in that leading group, with the 3 pacemakers at the front. Frederick Kiptoo and Noah Kipkemboy leading them round that turn out on the Amstel River, used for some of the big competitions here in Holland. Holland is a rowing nation as well as a running nation, and many big sports, hockey and of course road cycling.
We may even see some flyboarders later on. If you don't want to know what the flyboarders are, you'll know as soon as you see them. It's quite a sight. Here's the view from the boat camp. So we've got cameras, we've got angles covered all over the place here in Amsterdam today. This is the picture from the river itself. Look at that, the side-on shot. And I always feel, Richard, it just gives us a really nice look at the cadence of the runners, the individual styles. You can tell a lot from that side-on view.
I think you can also see how fast they're moving. A marathon pace of 4 minutes and 50 seconds for the mile is fast for anyone to run at, and to maintain that pace for 26 miles. I think when we see them on the inside on, we just see how fast they're running, which is quite different from how we're seeing them now from behind as they approach the 15-kilometre point.
Yeah, going through 15 kilometres in what, about 44:30. There we are. There's the aforementioned flyboarders. They are outside course record pace at the moment.
Well, there's one of the famous sites, the windmill de Riekemolen. Look at that, almost 400 years old. And Chris, I think that windmill is still practicing.
Yeah, it's quite a sight, and great support actually at this particular part of the course. And of course the spectators, as always, will play their part. Pacemakers still looking good, still working as a team.
We talked about the weather, how important that is. The temperature is creeping up, but it's still very, very nice marathon conditions. They often say the optimum conditions are 50 degrees in Fahrenheit, and that's about exactly what we've got, 11 degrees.
Abdi Nagea looking really comfortable into his running now. Born in Somalia, moved to the Netherlands at age 6 and stayed there here in the Netherlands for about 4 years. Then he moved to Syria and back to Somalia. So the nomadic label that he's got is entirely justified. Here are the women coming through 15 kilometres now. Just inside 50 minutes, that's what, 49:29. Well, again, we'll bring you the official split on 15 kilometres for the women. But again, starting to spread out a little bit. What a view he's got of this Amsterdam Marathon unfolding.
There's the hose, Chris, if you want to know how it works. that's where they get their power.
And again, just to stress how quickly these guys are running. This is the elite men's group. We're talking just outside 13 miles an hour, 21 kilometres an hour. To sustain that for as long as they do is quite extraordinary. There is the aforementioned number 56 there, the debutant from Kenya.
So back to the front of the women's race. Mimi Bellata just running behind Marius Ionescu, who's a pacemaker. In the middle there, Fikadu Girma, Ethiopian pacemaker. And Shashu Insermu, last year's second placer. She's also just off the back of, running on the shoulder of the pacemakers. And as we've seen before, another Ethiopian F15, I think that's Degetu Asmeru, the young 20-year-old making her debut here in Amsterdam.
They do a sharp 180-degree turn, first of all, over the bridge here at Oudekerk, and then another left hand again to make their way back onto the opposite side of the Amstel and start their way back north. And the next milestone, of course, will be 20 kilometres, and then very quickly after that, we will get a halfway split.
And it is interesting just watching Negea at the back of that group. Sometimes he is about 3 or 4 metres back from the group, and then sometimes, particularly there at the turns, when the group has to just naturally slow down as it goes around the corner, he can just catch up those few strides and then feel very much a part of the group.
So approaching the 20-kilometre mark there, you can see the black arch that they will cross under. Here it is. So we'll give you an unofficial 20k split. So comfortably inside the 60 minutes, going through in, what, about 59:48 for 20 kilometres.
So another of the well-known windmills. I think we translate that as the Swan windmill, Det Swan. So one of the Kenyan athletes possibly starting to struggle a little bit, Lucas Rotich. But the drink stations often starts to put gaps between athletes, and the question is whether it's a serious gap or whether it's just being caused by how the athletes pick up their drinks. That there was a little bit of pushing and shoving and sidestepping.
Yeah. Again, that gap at the back from Abdi Nagea's perspective. He's just settled down and quite wisely taking on plenty of fluid, and I'm sure now he can just work his way back and latch onto the back of that group. A really important component part of running a marathon is the ability to find your drink and pick it up and drink it.
So here we go, through halfway, and the athletes are certainly going a little bit slower than we were expecting. We were expecting a halfway split of around 62:30, but it looked like they were just outside 63 minutes.
Yeah, we'll bring you a halfway split as soon as we get that officially done, but I think you're right. Lawrence Chirano again last year went through in 62:11.
So back to the women's race, and they're approaching the bridge at Oudekerk. Still about 8 or 9 elite women in that group, with pacemakers and some of the other male runners. Mimi Bellata has been right at the front of that group from the start, running just off the shoulder of Marius Ionescu, the pacemaker. So
yeah, all the main protagonists are in there as they hit the bridge and they cross the Amstel, and they will hit the 20-kilometre mark very shortly. And there's a great glimpse of some of the other runners. Of course, plenty of opportunities if you're a decent club runner, maybe a sub-3-hour marathon runner. And, well, is that the first sign that Abdi is starting to lose touch with this group? Going through in exactly 63 minutes for halfway.
Well, here's Abdi Nagea. The question really is whether he can close that gap.
Yeah, 5 seconds off the rest of the group. He was through halfway. And, well, that gap, I reckon, now is 20 metres plus between this leading group and Abdi Nagea. There he is, and he's got to make sure that he can just keep them in his sights, even allowing for the foreshortening there. That is a gap that looks to me to be getting slightly bigger.
The women go through halfway. Well, they are actually ahead of course record schedule, 70 minutes and 1 second. So that would bring them home a minute faster than the course record. They go through 25k. How far back those two athletes are. Get a nice overhead shot through 25k, 1:14.26. Well, that gap back to Nagea seems to be quite big now. This part of the course, where they just turn the corner, Abdi Nagea is going to actually lose sight. So that's about 17, 18 seconds. Vincent Kipchumba has come into this race off the back of a big win in Vienna earlier this year, ran his PB there, 2:06.56. So he definitely one of the favourites if he can repeat his victory from earlier this year.
26 kilometres now through. Another opportunity to take on fuel. Most of these will take it, I'm sure, at this stage. There's a Rotic. So all the big names are in there. Dick Sisa, number 3, who was 3rd last year. Bernard Koech, number 4 from Kenya. Elisa Rotic, we saw a glimpse of him there. There he is, just on the shoulder of the pacemaker. Abdi Nagea, we think is, what, about 100 metres or so off this leading group. Tadu Abate, Vincent Kipchumba we just saw as well. And Abra Osman, one of the debutants, also in this leading group.
So Abdi just picking up his drink at just beyond 25 kilometres.
You can actually see, Richard, that the second pacemaker, Noah Kipkemboi, has dropped back and is now essentially pacing the two athletes who are off this leading group.
Well, that could be a big help for Nagea, give him some chance of getting back in contact with this group, or at least give him some hope of picking off the athletes as they drop off this group, which you can see now is happening as Kiptu really stretches them out, doing a great job as pacemaker.
So women approaching 25 kilometres, right of picture, with their dedicated pacemakers doing a terrific job. All the main names, the big names in the women's race are still in there, and they are inside course record pace, and that's quite a group there, isn't it? We've got, what, about 6 or so. We've obviously got some excellent elite men in there as well for company, as well as the pacemakers. But in terms of the elite women, we've got a group there of, what, about 7 or 8, maybe 9 of the top women, all still in there together.
Yes, right in the middle of that group, we're just seeing F2 as Mera Gebru. I think she's definitely one of the favourites. 3 Ethiopians and 5 Kenyans running behind Edwin Kiptu. 5 kilometres further back, the women going through 25k.
Yes, women through 25k in almost exactly 1:23. They're still over a minute inside course record pace. Chirono's 30k split was 1:28.58. And he's got them pretty much back on track here.
Well, that is impressive pacemaking, isn't it? And they're through 30k, and Kiptu is saying, I've done my work, it's all up to you now. Here we are, this is the second group. Noah Kipkemboi, the second pacemaker, staying with Abdi Nagea. So we're looking at about 50-55 seconds, the gap between the leaders and Abdi Nagea.
Yep, he's doing well, and again, it's just a question of whether Noah Kipkemboi, the second pacemaker, will he continue and try and drag Abdi around a little bit further, or will he think, no, my work is done? And the answer to that is the latter. He's on his own now, Abdi, so all the pacemaking duties are complete in the men's race, And, well, through some terrific pacemaking in the men's race, we should really pay tribute to Edwin Kiptoo, who's done a fine job there. And he's put them right back on schedule, just outside course record pace. So the women inside course record, here we are, confirmation of that. And they are just simply 10 seconds now outside course record, 1:29.05. That leading group of 9 going through 30K.
Yeah, 4 Ethiopians and 5 Kenyans, and this is where the race is over the last 12 kilometres. And some of those leading athletes we've been talking about, Solomon Dixisa's there, Tadu Abata is there, Bernard Koech of Kenya is there, Elisha Rotich.
Yeah, Abdi, 53 seconds down at 30 kilometres, so that's the gap we've got to keep an eye on here. So no pacemakers now. Their job is done, and it's Elisha Rotich then as the racing starts. There is Abdi, of course, he's lost his dedicated pacemaker, but he has moved ahead of the athlete wearing number 19, that is Asmare. Still looking pretty comfortable, isn't he? He's almost a minute down, but he's still looking full of running.
And these spectators are just going to show us exactly how fast those leading athletes are running at. Well, that is fascinating, isn't it, Chris, to see how they came back on schedule, just 7 seconds down on Chirono's course schedule at 30 kilometres, having been 50 seconds down at the halfway point. So that 10 kilometres between 20 and 30 kilometres where Kiptoo, the pacemaker, really took charge of the pace, has really picked up the pace and given them a chance of getting back and getting close to Chirono's course record set here last year, 2:04.06.
And that, I think, Richard, that injection of pace to put them back onto course record is probably the main reason why Abdi finds himself so far back. He simply couldn't live with that injection of pace set by Edwin Kiptoo, who was taking his pacemaking duties very seriously, and whatever fee he's been paid today, he's earned every penny, because that is outstanding pacemaking.
Bernard Koech, actually his last race of any kind was at the start of last year, so he's done well in some ways to stay with the leaders, but he's starting to struggle a little bit as his compatriot Rotich picks up the pace at the front of that group.
Really winding it up, and you can see the crowd and the noise and the atmosphere on the course increasing with every kilometre as they approach the centre of Amsterdam.
Here's Nagea. We can see from those shots that he has lost eye contact with that leading group. Well, that's another Kenyan, Daniel Kemboi, who's taken over at the front of the race, got a PB of 2:07.54, so he's operating at a pace faster than he's ever run before.
Women approaching 30 kilometres, so we'll see if they're still comfortably inside course record pace. We're looking for a time of around 1:41.06. They are comfortably inside that. 1:39, what? 1:39.40. So they are still really impressing here. There is number 8, Workanesh Alimu, who's maybe starting to feel the pace here. This is punishing.
So back with the men. There's Solomon Dixisa. He's been in this position last year when he stayed right at the front of the race until the last couple of miles. So Dixisa, one of the race favourites, still with that group. So Abdi Nagea, he's outside, well, a minute down on the Dutch record, his own Dutch record set in Rotterdam, 2:06.17. And when he went through 30K, he was more than a minute outside that. The penultimate drink station at 35 kilometres. And as we've seen already, this is where the group spreads out. Bernard Koech, who a few minutes ago was dropping off that leading group, he's working hard again to stay with them at 35 kilometres. But number 16, there's the debutant, Ethiopian, Betesfa Getahun. He's working really hard to stay Oh, he's just a few strides back now from that group. 7 athletes.
35 kilometres through, and they've slowed right down. They're now over 30 seconds outside course record pace, and the latest, as we suspected, to be possibly dropped is this man from Kenya, Bernard Koech, the 31-year-old, and that gap is starting to grow. Is it just another byproduct of the drink station? We often see gaps appear and then they can be closed quite quickly, but this is getting towards the serious end, the business end of the race. Lots of checking of watches. Alesha Rotic, remember, he's the one with the devastating kick. Number 5, centre of picture, still looking very comfortable. I also like the look of Tado Abate there, number 7. He's just looked so smooth throughout the whole race. But is this group of 9, Richard, starting to become a group of 8?
And here's Abdi going through 35 kilometres. Well, it's been a very tough last 5 kilometres, and he's got 7 kilometres of running, quite possibly on his own. He'll be looking down the road, seeing if any of the athletes are coming back to him. But we can see there in those pictures that it's a very open road, getting a lot of support from the spectators out here in Amsterdam.
So 20 minutes of running, less than 20 minutes of running left for these elite men in Amsterdam on a really calm, cool Sunday morning. And it's Kenya and Ethiopia, as we would expect. And here's confirmation of those splits. So 1:44.07 it was, they went through 35 kilometres. That's the scene in central Amsterdam, past the Amstel Hotel, one of the iconic hotels in the centre of the city.
And the athletes now just approaching the bridge that takes them over the Amstel River. They're the 8 athletes. Interesting, isn't it, Chris, that it seems to be the Kenyans who are doing all the leading. Tadu Abata, the young Ethiopian, has run a great race, and actually on the far side there, number 3, Solomon Dixisa, a few minutes ago, who was at the back of that group, well, he's really moved himself to the front. I wonder whether he's thinking about making a move, and it is the Ethiopian now, Dixisa, who is at the front of that group.
Yep.
As they just take this the slight descent off the bridge, heading down towards the Rijksmuseum.
Well, this is interesting, isn't it? The racing has started, certainly. It looks as though they're out for a really lively Sunday run. Many training partners in that group, but we're down to a group of 8. You can see how quickly Bernard Koech has been dropped. They're through 37 kilometres, so 9 has definitely become 8 here. Vincent Kipchumba there, number 8, the tall figure, but keep an eye on Tadu Abate, number 7 in the blue and green, the tall figure there. He's the young Ethiopian. He's kept his powder dry. Now, the athlete we were saying who'd done remarkably well to even find himself in this position, number 24, who has only won 1 previous marathon, Fentahun Bunungoi, looks to be the next candidate to be dropped from this group. Are we looking at 8 becoming 7?
So Abdi Nagea getting the support from the spectators as he crosses the Amstel. Well, I think, Chris, you're right. Hunenyao, the Ethiopian, well, he's had a great race. If he can just keep going at the pace he's at, he's going to record a massive PB. Only once run the marathon distance, 2:14.26, so he's going to smash that time today.
And now look at that, the splintering of this group. We mentioned the young Ethiopian who's been dropped, but look at that, they're now single file, Indian file, and this, approaching 38 kilometres, could be the decisive break here. They're continuing to put their foot to the pedal.
So within the matter of 20 metres, those big gaps are now opening up. Maurice Gachaga, Daniel Kemboy dropping back. This, the really tough part of the marathon. Number 11, Maurice Gachaga, A few moments ago he was in that leading group, and now as they take their last drink station before entering Vondel Park, even Tadeu Abata is now having to work really hard to stay in contact with those leading 4 athletes. So it's the Kenyan Elisa Rotich, number 5, at the front of the race, being pursued by Solomon Dixisa, number 3, and just a few meters down, Vincent Kipchumba and the second Ethiopian, Betesfa Getahun. Here's the Rijksmuseum.
Yeah, the Rijksmuseum seeing that for the second time. They'll be pleased to see it for the second time because it means they're almost home. It's been a really hard hour and 53 minutes of running here, but we have Kenya against Ethiopia. Remember, the number 3 there, right of picture, Solomon Dixisa, was 3rd here, and a huge personal best of 2:04.40. That will be a personal milestone for him, but the other 2, you know, are hanging on in here. So we have 2 Kenyans and 2 Ethiopians battling it out with a slight gap between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But what a performance here from Betesfa Getahun. He's the youngest in the field here, just 21 years old. He was 4th at the World Half Marathon Championships in Copenhagen whilst just 19 years old. But he's making his full marathon debut here, and what a debut it is.
There they are, entering Vondel Park, 38.5 kilometres, so just over 2 miles of running to go to the stadium. Negea, just over a minute down on the leaders as he passes the Rijksmuseum.
Women approaching 35.
So it looks like 5 women in that leading group, including 2 of the favourites, number 3, Mimi Bellata, and number 2, just behind the pacemakers, Asmera Gebru. And those 5 metres, they can just seem so hard to close at this stage of the race. You can see how hard Vincent Kipchumba, the Kenyan, the tall Kenyan, is working to close that gap. But it seems that the 2 of them have come back alongside him. Right at the back of that group, number 16, the Ethiopian Getahun, started out as a track runner, but left the track 2 years ago and has moved up to the road. Negea, well, still looking smooth and has done really well to keep his rhythm. "40 kilometres for the leaders, so just over 2 kilometres to run, and that gap of 5 metres is still there, and it's Rotich, the Kenyan.
Well, Rotich, the Kenyan, we mentioned with the devastating finish. We haven't seen him unleash it yet, but these final kilometre and a bit are going to be really, really testing here. Dixita, with that rather ungainly, slightly untidy wide arm carriage we've mentioned, is not doing him any harm at all. He's still very competitive here. And it really is a race unfolding now. We're down to the last 2 kilometres of this race. It's been hard, it's been attritional, it's been hugely entertaining. And we're just trying to read into the facial expression. Just a little glance to the left and right from Dixisa. What is he reading into his other competitors here? Kipchumba there has worked really hard to stay on the coattails of these leading 2. 2 Ethiopians, 2 Kenyans, all battling it out here on the streets of Amsterdam for a famous victory here in 2019.
Really, really impressive how Kipchumba, the tall Kenyan in the white vest, has clawed his way back, coming to this race off the back of a win. Well, I've got an idea now from those splits that Dixisa, they're about a minute outside Chirona's course record pace from last year. So I think the last 5 kilometres have not been as fast as they were last year. And it's the Ethiopian Betesfa Getahun who is struggling now to stay with that that pace.
Yes, the Ethiopian has been dropped in his first ever marathon, so we're down to 2 Kenyans and 1 Ethiopian. Is this the podium here unfolding as we approach 41 kilometres? This is a straight shootout on a Sunday morning here in Amsterdam. Look at the speed of these athletes. You wouldn't think they've been running for over 2 hours, but they have. Under 5 minutes of running left here in Amsterdam.
Back to the women's race as they cross Amstel River past the Amstel Hotel, and as we've seen, Asmera Gebru on the shoulders of the 2 male pacemakers.
Well, exactly 1,000 metres to go. The last kilometre here in Amsterdam in 2019. Kenya 1 and 2, and now it's Diksisa who's starting to feel the pace. Wearing number 3, he was 3rd last year. Can he avoid having to settle for 3rd this year? Into the final kilometre here. This is where it starts hurting. This is where the racing goes. Are we looking at a straight shootout here between 2 fellow Kenyans? Elisha Rotich there in the blue, wearing number 5, and Vincent Kipchumba, the 29-year-old, wearing the white, number 8. Kenya 1, Kenya 2, and Ethiopia now 3 inside the final kilometre.
Well, Vincent Kipchumba's worked really hard to get back to that leading group, and now he's actually taken over the lead and is actually the strongest looking of the 3 athletes. So it's Vincent Kipchumba from Kenya, number 8, leading out Solomon Diksisa, the Ethiopian, who's been with the lead throughout the race. So Vincent Kipchumba has opened up 2 or 3 metres on Diksisa, and Elisha Rotich in 3rd place.
Diksisa has rallied here. That's the finishing line there inside the Olympic Stadium. We will wait for them inside the stadium. The final 200 metres of this marathon will be on the track. It's half a lap of the track and they are almost there. Inside the final 500 metres here in Amsterdam, it's Kenya 1, Ethiopia 2. Kipchumba leading the way. He had to work so hard in Fondle Park to get back in contention, and here he is leading the way. This would be the biggest win of his career. There is Tadu Abate, who was in contention for much of the race. 400 metres to go. It's Kenya 1, Ethiopia 2. They can see the stadium. I am Amsterdam. Will it be Amsterdam who will be greeting Kipchumba here in 2019? He's almost there. We'll see him come into the stadium. We can see him now from our commentary position. 200 metres to go, and it could be a famous victory here in 2019. Vincent Kipchumba, the 29-year-old, he won in Vienna in April, and he's on his way to victory here in Amsterdam in 2019. The course record set last year by Lawrence Chirono will not be disturbed today, but what a performance here. It's Kenya's day again. It was Kenya's day in 2017, 2018 through Lawrence Chirono, and now it's Kenya's day again in 2019. Vincent Kipchumba, who won in Vienna in April with a massive personal best. Keep an eye on the clock, 2:06.56. He's done it again. Vincent Kipchumba wins in Amsterdam in 2019. 2:05.09, unofficially the winning time. It's a huge personal best. Solomon Diksisa, 3rd last year, makes it 2nd in 2019. And in 3rd place for Kenya, Elisha Rotich, with the sprint finish that perhaps didn't quite happen today. And what a debut for the 2nd Ethiopian home. Petesma Getahun, the 21-year-old from Ethiopia, comes home in 4th place. What a race, what a performance. And again, it's Kenya's day. Vincent Kipchumba.
Here's Nagaya. Abdi Nagaya had hopes on improving on his Dutch national record of 2:06.17 at the start of today, but now still running smoothly. Remember, he ran a national record of 2:08.16 here in Amsterdam 2 years ago.
400 metres to go. Abdi Nagaya, who's struggled hard, but here he comes. He has the stadium in sight. The Dutch champion, the national record holder, will be outside his own national record here. It's been a long, tough road here today. He said he came into this race feeling good. in pretty good form. Patrick Sang, his coach, part of the group there in Kaptebet in Kenya, and here he is into the final 200 meters, and the crowd, the Dutch crowd, getting behind their man. He struggled. We feared he may find it difficult to live with the pace, that 62.30 pace, the early pace-making group led by Edwin Kiptoo. But here comes Abdi into the final home straight in the stadium, this iconic Olympic stadium here in Amsterdam, with 100 meters to go. Abdi won't be the best time of his career, but it's been another impressive performance here by Abdi Nagaya, the 30-year-old, outside his personal best, outside the Dutch record, but he still finishes inside the top 10, and it's a really well-earned performance there from Abdi Nagaya. 2:07 and 30-something. His time will bring up the confirmed times as we get them and tidy up all the results for you. So a reminder that our men's champion today here in Amsterdam, Vincent Kipchumba, coming home ahead of Solomon Texita, the Ethiopian. 2:07.39 for Abdi Nagaya.
Well, isn't this interesting? Degetu Azmero, the Ethiopian debutant, is now leading the women's race. Well, this is going to be a real upset if she can hold on to this lead.
Well, let's just take a look at how this happened. There we are. Here's Tigist Gemra, the athlete in the blue, and this was the moment, just entering Fondle Park here for the last time. The two of them stride for stride, and away she went. The handbrake came off and said, right, this is my time. I'm on my way. I've never run a full marathon in my life, but I feel good. She's 20 years old, and that was the decisive break. And here she is live and on her way to her first ever victory in her first ever full marathon, just 20 years old and heading for victory. What a performance. She now has victory in her sights. The Olympic Stadium very shortly will loom into view, gritting her teeth, but she looks still full of running, looks really confident, really composed, has kept her shape, the shoulders are still loose, and she's still full of running here with just a few more minutes of running to go.
There's the stadium. Got 2 more turns, I think, before she comes onto the track.
Well, when she reaches the stadium, that will be just over 200 meters to go. There she is, approaching 500 to go. What a sight that must be for the youngster from Ethiopia, Degetu Azmero. We've seen some fine performances here from Ethiopians over the years. We think of Haile Gebrselassie in the men's race. We think of Tiki Galana, the eventual Olympic champion, of course, who won here back in 2011. But this is a new name for many people. Degetu Azmero, on her way to a famous victory. 400 meters to go here. It's 1 lap of the track. And a new name is born here in 2019 for Ethiopia. 400 meters to go. Degetu Azmero, the 20-year-old from Ethiopia, on her way to victory here in her maiden marathon. There is the athlete in second place, giving chase hard, Tigist Gemra, who was in contention until the latter stages, but once again in Fondle Park, the brakes came off, the handbrake came off, and she was away. Now she's into the stadium, into the final 200 meters. We can see her now from our commentary position. She's almost there. What a debut this is. It's going to be an Ethiopian 1-2, and significantly, it's going to be a new course record. She is going to smash the course record. 100 meters to go. Ethiopia's day once again. It's a new name for women's marathon running here in Amsterdam. Ethiopia will get first and second, but the winner today in her first ever marathon, remember the name, Degetu Azmero, only 20 years old. She smashes the course record in Amsterdam in 2019. Meseret Hailu's record of 2:21.09 has been destroyed here by the youngster in Amsterdam. Degetu Azmero, in her first ever marathon, knocks over 2 minutes off that course record. Second place. Well done to Tigist Gemra, also from Ethiopia, coming home and a really creditable 2:19.51, also inside the former course record. So the first two home have beaten the former course record quite comfortably. That has been an exceptional race, and that's what it means to her. Ethiopia 1 and 2 in the women's race, but the winner this year in 2019, Degetu Azimiru, just 20 years old.
Well, superb performances by the top two women. The best time 2:26 coming into this race, and there's the third placed athlete, Azmera Gebru, also running under the course record inside 2 hours and 21 minutes. So the top three athletes all under Meseret Hailu's course record, a new course record hit here this year.
Wow, inmiddels de laatste meter van deze moeilijk, wat is zwaar. Oké, bro. 2:32, handje aan de lucht in 2:32.33. Voor India, Nederlands kampioen, Bo Inmiddels. En de eerste resultaat van de technische daar de laatste meters in de
So our podium finishers here in Amsterdam in 2019. In third place, Elisha Rotich from Kenya. In second, Solomon Dexisa, Ethiopia. And our winner in 2019, there he is, in a huge personal best, Vincent Kipchumba from Kenya.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, with a final time and a new track record of 2:19.26, please your attention, your respect and applause for the female winner of the 2019 TCS Amsterdam Marathon, representing Ethiopia, Degetu Azimiru.
So the winner of the 2019 TCS Amsterdam Marathon, Degetu Azimiru, 20-year-old, debutant at the marathon, a new course record. What a day for her, and what a year for her, having won the silver medal at the African Games in August, and now to record her first big city marathon victory here in Amsterdam.
To conclude this part of our ceremony, we will present you the full podium.
So our top three finishers in the women's race here in Amsterdam. The winner, Degetu Azimiru from Ethiopia, a new course record, 2 hours, 19 minutes and 26 seconds. 24 years of age, 2 hours, 20 and 52 seconds. So they're the top three in the women's race here in Amsterdam, standing alongside the top three male finishers. We've really enjoyed watching two great elite races, with Vincent Kipchumba from Kenya winning the men's race, and Degetu Azimiru, the new debutant at the marathon from Ethiopia, winning the women's race in a new course record.